What is up, YouTube, and welcome to the Prime Vanguard channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you about my take on Cardinal Deus Orfist post A Brush with Legends. Now, for those of you guys that do not know, I'm a Magnolia main, but my second favorite deck of Overdressed since it's released has been Orfist. Orfist has just had a really amazing upgrade and boost in this set, and I truly will say that I'm on the team where Orfist is best deck. Now, I know that a lot of tournament results have come out for the deck, and the deck has been, it's either up here or it's down there. It's one or the other, but I really do think that the deck, if it continues going on in the direction that it has been, has the potential to be probably one of the best decks in the format in the next set. But I got a video coming on about that, talking about Orfist's best deck real soon. So y'all need to stay tuned for that. But I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys my take on the deck and everything that I think about the deck is going to do and be in my deck profile for this format. So here we go, y'all. All right, you guys, so to get started off with my Cardinal Deus Orfist deck profile, I'm gonna go ahead and show that ride chain as usual. So this is the first ride chain for Orfist. Really good ride chain, helps you get a world, helps you get some power, gets everything going for the deck to really do what it is that it wants to do. And moving on to the main deck. So for the main deck, I played 3 copies of Cardinal Deus Orfist. When the game first came out, this was the main deck I wanted to play. Orfist looks so cool, his SP art is amazing, and the color palette for this card is insane. I've never been a big Link Joker guy, but if they had this card back in the old day, I most definitely would have played this deck. But back to Orfist. So I playing Orfist. The deck is very straightforward with what it wants to do. With your Shadow Army tokens, the deck is now allowing you to be more versatile with them. It's not so much as just create big columns and bash them in the face now. It's, okay, so your Shadow Army tokens can be used as a resource that you play with instead of the other resource that you use in the deck, which is a weird form of resource management that they do, but I understand what they're going for with this deck because Orfist is going to give you 3 Shadow Army tokens 9 times out of 10. That is what's just going to happen depending on the orders that you already have. He also powers himself up depending on what your order cards are. So he's really just all about powering up and being just a big beat stick for your opponent to deal with. That's his playstyle. It's a very straightforward playstyle, and that's what makes this deck really fun to play. It's beautifully simple. Moving on to my next card, I am playing 1 copy of Cardinal Noid Plastia. Now, Cardinal Noid Plastia is really just a card to help me go through my deck faster and draw more cards. I never played draw triggers with this deck. I didn't really see the point in doing that, as the deck already makes really good numbers and has a really good form of unorthodox resource management. So with a card like Plastia to help me go through my deck faster by drawing more cards is extremely helpful. I'm only playing him at 1 right now because there are some other cards in the deck that unfortunately take priority over this card, but if I did have the space or if I wanted to, I would either play 1 more of this or I would swap it out for the other grade 3 card of this deck. That is the one that lets you attack and your opponent has to drop 2 cards, or you can get experimental with it. But I will say that this is just a flex slot in the deck. Moving on to my grade 2s, I'm playing 2 copies of Cardinal Fang Airfist. Cardinal Fang Airfist is the weird form of resource management that I was talking to you about. This card allows me to get some control on the board during every single turn, which is something that I really do enjoy, as being able to force my opponent to pop one of their rear guards every single turn helps long term with offensively what it is that I want to do and defensively against me, as my opponent is now forced to choose one of their cards in the field to get rid of that eventually they're going to have to replace or keep replacing with skills and effects from their hand or any other form of resource that they have in the game. For my last grade 2 of the deck, I'm playing 4 copies of Cardinal Draco Alviderd. Cardinal Draco Alviderd is a grade 2 that I really do enjoy. He is another beat stick of the deck, as depending on the order that you play, he'll get 5k power, and then he lets you use your Shadow Army token to pop something else. So my variation of this deck, I really did focus heavily on controlling my opponent, as a lot of decks right now have really good rear guards. A lot of those rear guards are a lot faster, but resource management is still something that a lot of decks just have not gotten yet. And if they do have it, it's in the form of something that you have to do during the battle phase. And your main phase is obviously where you set your board up and do everything, but the battle phase, you can't really do too much yet, at least not in Overdress. All right, so moving on to the grade 1s of the deck, I am playing 4 copies of Detonation Mutant Bobalmine. This is just honestly the best resource management card for Brant Gate in general. I see no reason to play the other cards, the Cardinal cards, the Prima and the other Prima, that one gives you a soul charge and one gives you a counter charge. Those cards are cool and they stay on the board, which is like the main difference between this card and those cards. And then there's another card that lets you counter charge. I think it like retires itself or something, but this does all of that in one. I mean, I see no point in playing all those other cards because he just does everything that you were trying to do, and he does it at the end of the battle. So it happens pretty much at the end of your turn. You get your resources back. You get an 8k booster for one of your columns, which you don't even need because you play Shadow Army tokens. It just does everything the deck needs it to do. It also opens up a rear guard circle for the Shadow Army tokens. So I don't really see the purpose in playing the other Cardinal Primas because although they stay on the board, I don't really care what I have on my board because whatever I need, I can just keep remaking with my Shadow Army tokens and Orfist's ability. I also have the New Order card in the deck that will give me a Shadow Army token. So I'm not missing out on anything, which is why I think that 4 copies of this card is honestly just a staple in the deck because it's so free and it's so helpful to what the deck is trying to do while maintaining the offensive pressure that this deck already does extremely well at. For my next grade 1, I'm playing 4 copies of Cardinal Noid Thumborino. So Cardinal Noid Thumborino is one of the new support cards that came out for the deck. It's honestly one of the best support cards for the deck as this card helps with more offensive pressure while at the same time giving you resource management. And it's because of all this really amazing and very consistent resource management that I'm just gonna come out and say it now. Orfist really is best deck. I'm sorry, I really do think that Orfist is best deck. I just think that because of how the playstyle of the deck works and what the orders do, it's so much of just the speed of the deck that's really holding it back. Because this deck can do really well and explode on grade 3, but anything before grade 3, there's not too much else you can do. However, that doesn't matter because once this deck starts going, it's almost really hard to stop. You have Bobalmine that gives you counter charge, soul charge. You have Thumborino who will open up a rearguard circle, power you up and draw a card. And then as you've seen with the other cards in the deck and even the ride chain, we have no problem keeping this deck going. So this card is honestly a key piece to the deck that I have to keep at 4 because being able to go through the deck faster and draw more cards is extremely helpful, especially because we're doing all of this at the end of the battle phase, which means that defensively speaking, I'm adding more cards to my defense and then going into my next turn, my cards that are already on the board and even my own main Vanguard will just help out with my offense. 4 copies of Violate Dragon. This is the Brant Gate Sentinel. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to my triggers. I play 3 copies of Cardinal, Draco, and Yurpo. This deck has no need for draw triggers. You already play a lot of cards to help you search your deck, get your world, and draw cards that happen at the end of the battle phase, as I was saying before. So you really just want to keep up with that offense, and this is just the best way to do it. I'm only playing 3 because I prefer crits in this deck. Like, this deck already makes really good numbers, and if your opponent doesn't pull a defensive, you are forcing them to drop a 20k shield because 2 Shadow Army tokens equals up to 30k. Your opponent's at 13, 15's not enough. So pretty much criticals apply a lot more pressure to your opponent than fronts do. And although the 5,000 shield is important to me, I'd rather just keep up with the offensive playstyle that this deck is doing really well at. The Brant Gate Overtrigger Star Dragon Deity of Infinitude, Eldobreath for my Overtrigger. This card is extremely helpful. It's pretty much a front trigger and critical trigger all in one, and sometimes it even gets worse for your opponent because when your Orfist is huge, it gets really scary. When you double the critical of that, it's GG, my friend. The rest of the deck is 8 criticals. I play 4 copies of Aurora Battle Princess Lourus Yellow, 4 copies of Cardinal Draco Barbizonde, and 4 copies of Cardinal Prima Nabilem. So that was it for the main deck, guys. Let's go ahead and get on to these orders. So for the world cards of the deck, I'm playing 4 copies of Hallowing Moonlight Night. This card is the best of the world cards that the deck currently has right now. Its simple effect is the on place Soul Blast 1 and draw a card. I don't really care about the other effects because right now with the way the Orfist is, this one is honestly the best one because it's a Soul Blast one to draw a card and it's searchable, which means that every time you see this card, you're essentially going through your deck faster, and obviously deck thinning is deck winning. For my next road card, I'm playing 2 copies of In the Darkness, Nobody Knows. So this card I'm playing 2 copies of because it gives me the option to retire something, and sometimes that retire is important. Even though I already have so many retiring cards in my deck already, I am only keeping it at 2 because it is a world card, but I may drop this in the future depending on what other world support we are going to get later in the game, because out of all the worlds, well, between this world and Howling Moonlight Night, this card definitely does not compare to what that card can do. But if I am in a situation where I just need to get more field control, then I will go for this card. And finally, for my last world card, I'm playing 2 copies of the new Eclipsed Moonlight. So I will say that after just thinking about it and playtesting this deck, I am probably going to drop this card down to 1. Eclipsed Moonlight Night, essentially what this card does is it's a free Shadow Army token for a counterblast of 1. You usually want to use this earlier in the game so that you can get some offensive pressure and just have a Shadow Army token you want to use earlier to side with your other cards. But I prefer resource management over everything. Resource management to me is one of the biggest things when it comes to deck building, and this card doesn't exactly offer a straightforward resource management except in the form of the Shadow Army tokens that don't really become resourceful until a lot of your cards get on the board to do their skills. So therefore, having this card at 1 is just a lot better in my opinion, but I'm showcasing the 2 that I have for now because I haven't made any changes to the deck yet. All right, you guys, that is it for my Cardinal Deus Orfist deck profile. Tell me what you guys think about this one. I was actually really excited to do this one because I just love playing Orfist. Besides Magnolia, this is the other deck that I really main when it comes to tournament play because I just love its play style. It's very simplistic, it's straightforward, and it's fun. But if you really want to find out how fun it is, go ahead and share this video with your friends and let them play test it out against you, and they'll tell you how much fun it is. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you guys are notified about whenever I drop new videos. Also, tell me what you're thinking about in the comment section down below. How can I improve this deck? How can I make it better? I'm still play testing and figuring everything out, but this is currently what I've settled on. That's why I'm showing it to you guys. But other than that, y'all, that's it for the rest of today. Peace.